Hey, Lark and Rose here, making this video on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the day on which countless political leftists deify a guy who says he dreams of a day when people will be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin, when a grand total of 0 of those political parasites actually believe anything of the sort. So, while we're on the topic of people pretending to believe things that they don't, like the left pretending to share the viewpoints of Martin Luther King Jr., I thought I'd make this video about why nobody, and I do mean nobody, likes democracy. Even though everybody talks about our sacred democracy, none of them mean it. The politicians don't mean it, the pundits don't mean it, the voters don't mean it, nobody means it. So, and you'll hear it a lot now because you have the pathetic thing of the political left still trying to pretend that January 6th a few years ago was an insurrection that threatened our sacred democracy. And everything about that isn't even remotely close to true. It wasn't an insurrection. It wasn't a threat to the system, unfortunately. It was a giant stupid tantrum. But when they go on and on about our sacred democracy, they don't give a shit about democracy. What they care about is you falling for the lie that letting you vote for crooks means you consented to the outcome, that you agreed to this, that it's therefore sort of voluntary and they're representing you, which is all bullshit, but it's bullshit that is very well served by the lie that is democracy. Now, pick any one of those political parasites out there talking about our sacred democracy as a risk, and ask yourself, okay, there's this politician, Biden or anybody else, maybe not Biden because he can't form a coherent sentence, maybe pick some Democratic lying schmuck who can actually complete a whole sentence. If somebody came to him and say, yeah, we just developed this technology, we asked every single person in the country what they want as far as government, and we found that 53.7% of them want a conservative government, not what you guys want. Do you think there is a single Democratic politician anywhere who would respond to that with, oh, okay, well, if that's what the majority wants, then never mind. I don't care. I'll step back and let them have what they want. I hope none of you are delusional enough to think that there's a single politician anywhere that would do that would respond that way. They don't give a shit what you want. None of them. And that's just as true as Republicans. If you went to them and said, oh, we did a survey, it turns out 54% of the population is liberal. You think any of them are going to go, okay, well then you can have your way. We'll just step aside and be quiet. No, they're all trying to achieve power. They're all trying to achieve power under the guise of representing the people through our constitutional republic, our democratically elected yada yada. None of them give a shit about that. And you know it if you think about it for 2 seconds, because I don't think anybody would actually be delusional enough to say, oh no, if any of these politicians found out that the majority actually wants something that isn't them, they would go, oh, okay, well, as long as our precious democracy is served, as long as the majority gets what they want, that's all I really care about. That's not true of any politician ever. And the number of ways in which they lie, cheat, and steal and deceive people and manipulate people's feelings to try to get themselves into power demonstrate they don't give a crap what you want. How many of them, a lot of them will go to the people and say, I'm one of you, first of all, and I care about your need. And they always do this sickening, stupid thing of, this is about the guy who is a truck driver in Ohio, and they try to recount this, is this normal people? Should I pretend to know what normal people are going through so these morons will put me in power over them? They play that stupid ploy to try to pretend. Do they ever ask you, hey, what do you actually want? No, they don't give a shit what you want. Republicans don't, Democrats don't, nobody does. In fact, all the way, nobody does. Now, just to be clear, I don't want democracy either. It's profoundly evil and stupid. We don't actually have it, we have this oligarchy that puts on a show, which is stupid and evil, pretending that this is a democracy, which would be stupid and evil, because democracy is a majority voting to have a ruling class force their will on a minority, which is never moral, no matter what. Even if it happened to like serve my interests, I'm not in favor of the majority making other people go along with something they don't want to go along with. Democracy is evil. It's insane. So I don't want it. Now, do you pretend to care about democracy? Possibly. A lot of people out there mimic the stupid crap that the politicians say and pretend they care. When you go into that voting booth, are you pressing that button and going, gee, I hope the majority gets their way regardless of whether I agree with it or not? No, you literally wouldn't vote if that was your goal. You would go, we'll see if the majority gets what they want. You go in there because you want your ideas and your preferences and your values forced onto humanity by way of government. That's not democracy. Now, you can pretend that, well, yeah, we all do that, and then the outcome is democracy, which it's not. It's rigged and lied. Lies are the foundation of it in so many ways. But let's pretend it was. You still don't want democracy. You want your values forced on everybody. And if you succeed by having enough other people who vote the same way to have similar values forced on everybody, you may go, yay, democracy in action. But you don't give a crap about democracy unless it favors your preferences and values and interests. Well, that's not you caring about democracy. That's just you hoping you have a big enough gang to force your will on a smaller number of people whose gang wasn't big enough to resist by way of the political process. You don't give a crap about democracy either, nor should you. But statists are 100% hypocritical when they vote to have their will violently imposed onto others by way of government. I want those people taxed for whatever I think is good, which is what all Democrats do and all Republicans do and all of everything in between does. And then they have to pretend, but here's the worst part. Like, politicians pretend to give a crap about democracy so that they can get away with dominating you and robbing you, because tyrants figured out pretty long time ago that they can't just say, I own you, so I'll do whatever the hell I want, because people are like, hey, I don't think that's fair. So they said, what if we get two crooks up here and let the stupid peasants decide which one of us is going to stomp on them and boss them around? By the way, if you haven't seen The Jones Plantation, jonesplantationfilm.com, or the novel, thejonesplantation.com, because it totally depicts how they do this. They pretend to give you a choice so that you think you have some say in the matter, and they can pretend that you consented to the outcome when you totally didn't. So that's why politicians do it, but there's a creepy, evil motive behind why voters do it. You, Mr. Person who votes Democrat, Republican, or anything else, you don't want to have to force me, for example, to pay for whatever crap you want if I don't want to support it. I mean, you can ask me to fund something, and I may or may not, depending on whether I agree with it. You not only do you not want the risk of going door to door robbing everybody like me to pay for whatever like you happen to wish existed, but you don't want to admit that you're responsible for voting to have government do exactly that. And if you can hide behind the bullshit mythology of democracy, you can pretend that it's not a bad thing that you personally tried to empower this violent ruling class to dominate and rob a bunch of people you don't know, even though that's exactly what you did. But if you can prattle on about the will of the people and democracy, you can hide your immoral, violent tendencies behind these pseudo-religious political rituals and pretend not only that that isn't a bad thing, not only that you're, not a cheerleader for violent evil, which you are if you vote, you can pretend I did my civic duty to vote in our great democratically elected constitutional republic. I'm a better person for trying to get somebody on a throne who will then, by way of government, violently rob and dominate all the people I know and millions of people I don't know. You actually try to pass that off as a virtue, that you engaged in mass thuggery, that you personally advocated the initiation of violence against many, many millions of people that you don't know and have never met and never will meet. And you repeat the mythology that the politicians feed you so you can feel good about being a cheerleader for evil, because that's what you're doing when you vote. You are being a cheerleader and an enabler of authoritarian violence and domination. That's just the literal reality of what you're doing, whether you like it or not. So you pretend to like democracy so you can hide behind the ritual and pretend that you're not cheering for violence against innocent people when you totally are. And the politicians hide behind democracy, pretend they give a crap what the people want while they're dominating and exploiting and robbing everybody else. But they don't give a crap either. People who understand freedom, like myself, I don't give a crap about democracy because it's evil. I don't engage in it because I don't want you robbed even for things that I want. People can ask you if you want to chip in, and if you don't want to chip in, I don't want thugs using violence to make you chip in and call it taxation by way of representative government and all the other fluffy euphemistic bullshit we need to use to hide the fact that we, the voters, just advocated violence against all the people we don't know. So you have this bizarre spectacle where almost everybody, if you ask them, is democracy a good thing? Oh yeah, democracy is awesome. And nobody, not one person, actually believes that. And the people who babble about it the most believe it the least. So you have, Biden, the mindless puppet out there. Oh, the insurrection is a threat to our democracy. Like you give a shit. And by the way, it wasn't an insurrection. It wasn't a threat to the system. And then the other side is like, hey, Biden's making it so even Democrats can't vote in a primary for anybody but Biden. And they're trying to keep the other guy off the ballot. Like, we have to do this to keep Trump off the ballot. Oh, because you're such fans of democracy? Don't you want the will of the people and what the majority? No, none of them do on either side. They never have, they never will, and neither will any voter. And yet you see all these people lying to themselves and everybody else, and everybody lying back and forth pretending they give a crap about democracy. And the funny thing is, the only ones being honest are the minority of people like myself who believe in freedom, not authoritarian domination by way of government, who admit democracy is shit. It's inherently immoral. It's not the same as freedom. It's the opposite of freedom. Watch the Jones Plantation. It demonstrates it quite well. So you get all these people cheering for democracy and none of them believe in it, and a few people not cheering for it and yeah, we don't believe in it either. And nobody in the mainstream is ever going to say that, even though it's obviously provably true. Because the Republicans don't dare to say, you don't care about democracy, and neither do I. Both sides will pretend the other side is a threat to democracy because they're just trying to grab power regardless of what the people want. Yeah, you mean exactly like you do? Exactly like every single candidate does in every single election? So you have this ridiculous spectacle where nobody believes something, but everybody says it. And they say it as unquestionable dogma. You have to think democracy is awesome. Do we all think it's awesome? Yeah, we all think democracy is awesome. Our sacred democracy. So all these crooks and all the dupes that fell for their shit in unison talk about our sacred democracy. And not one of them believes in it. Not stinking one. And it's really weird to watch an entire population. I mean, it's not that weird to watch politicians lie to a population. That's kind of expected. But to watch an entire population lie to itself with everybody pretending they give a crap about democracy is a very weird spectacle. So allow me to be one of the few that says democracy absolutely sucks. We've never had it. We never should have had it. It's absolutely evil, and every single person that engages with it, whether it's the politician trying to get a position of power or the duped voters trying to put certain people into positions of power, you are all engaged in this cult ritual that is the primary threat to humanity, while feeling good about yourself and lying to yourself about it and lying to everybody else too. And it's really weird to watch our supposedly progressive, educated society engage in this bizarre cult ritual where everybody lies to everybody and we all cheer for immoral violence and then act as if we're compassionate and responsible, concerned citizens. You can tell because I just cheered for that guy to get on the throne and violently dominate everybody. If people were even just honest with themselves and admitted what they want, I want that guy on the throne forcing everyone else to go along with whatever I want. That is why anybody ever votes. Back when I was a statist, that's why I voted. I wanted what I want forced on everybody else by way of government, until I finally recognized, yeah, that's wrong when I do it too. So if people even just stopped lying to themselves, statism would crash and burn. Because most people don't want to come right out and say, oh yeah, I want all my neighbors violently dominated and robbed. All voters do, but they don't even let themselves know that. They have to lie to themselves and everybody else to feel good about being part of the statist monstrosity. Now, once again, I will end on a high note. The fact that they have to lie to themselves and everybody else about that to feel good about it is, weirdly enough, a good sign. Because it means if the day comes that they recognize, wow, I'm literally trying to empower somebody to use violence against all my neighbors, which is what I finally realized like 27 years ago, statism collapses. Regardless of what the politicians do, literally if the people stopped lying to themselves, that is the end of government.